Well, welcome back to Around the World with Dane Waters. Our guest, Fadel Lamen, has graciously showed up. Hello, Fadel. How are you? Good to see you.
Good.
Listen,
Good to see you.
you missed it. You missed. I had to do a song and dance and sing and do all this kind of stuff for the last 15 minutes.
Oh,
Listen, I know my entire audience is like they're never going to watch me again now. I think I've just run them all off. But now, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. The world knows who you are. They saw your bio, but let me tell you a little bit about Fidel. Listen, Libya is a country, like many countries around the world, that are going through very, very difficult times. Ever since, I'd say probably for the last 10 or 15 years, and you can tell me more about this. But what we really need are strong leaders around the world. Fidel and I, we talk about this all the time. And I will say, I'll show my bias here, which I shouldn't since I do the TV show, but I will tell you, Fidel is the kind of leader that the world needs and that Libya needs. So let's get into the questions. So we're going to do a series of just very quick questions for you and get your opinion. Um, Libya. Do you believe Libya can be saved and turned into a functioning member of the League of Democratic Nations?
of course. First of all, thank you, Dane, for inviting me. I'm delighted and appreciate the chance to get into your show. I wish you the best of luck. As to your question, I think there's no question that Libya is capable and able to move from the status quo to move to become a productive, functioning country that is good for itself and for its neighbor around the world. There's no question. We have to overcome a lot of problems. We have to overcome a lot of difficulties that we have internally in the region. But definitely we need to, and we have to, and there is no other choice.
Well, listen, I'm optimistic as well, and I want that. And but for there to be stability in Libya, if you had to name one thing that it would take for there to be a fundamental change in Libya, what would that one thing be? What is the one thing that we must do as the world to support Libya in taking place?
Well, we have to come. We have to, excuse me. We have to overcome our divisions within the country. We have two government. We have two illegitimate government in terms of they are not functioning, legitimate, and internationally recognized government. And this has taken place since 2014. And with all the good efforts of the United Nations and the world and the Libyans, good-hearted Libyans, we're still having difficulty coming up with a unified executive, unified functioning government. Unless and until we do that, we will continue to struggle and continue to our problem will continue to spill over to our neighbors and our continent as well as toward Europe and the rest of the world. So the world has, if they need to help us, I think they need to help us function this fundamental goal.
Well, so it would seem, ever since Gaddafi was deposed, Libyan people have been under this uncertainty, right? So the question is, are the Libyan people, do you think there's a chance of a civil war? Do you think there's a chance that the people may rise up? I mean, haven't they had enough?
Well, they are frustrated. They are going through a lot of difficulties. I mean, the cost of living has increased dramatically. The ability for people to live decently and comfortably has been challenged for quite some time right now. The uncertainty of security and stability and of functioning institutions, a functioning government has not been achieved since 2014 specifically. But before that, there was some issues as well. So rising again, I think they have risen after 42 years of the former regime. Do we want societies and people to rise every once in a while? I don't think we want to see the situation that we're seeing in Sudan. So we are looking for stable diplomatic political solutions. Libya is full of arms, full of militias, and the weapons are all over the place, as well as the presence of international, uh, militaries and militias as well. So any dysfunctionality in the sense of uprising, a peaceful uprising might turn into a violent, with to faced by a violent response, for example, and that can turn ugly. And we are trying very hard to find a political solution, and I think we should be able to get there without resorting to the uncertainty of uprising and military armed conflict that we have seen in before, and we have seen 2019, and it's still we are still living under what's been called the ceasefire. The United Nations has, with the 5+5, that's the group that's overseeing the ceasefire between the East and West, have celebrated their fourth anniversary without turning a ceasefire to a permanent ceasefire. We're turning into the situation from a ceasefire to a stable, peaceful outcome that we need to have.
Listen, I hope that the ceasefire holds. We look at what's happening between Israel and Lebanon, where there was, the United Nations Resolution 1701. A ceasefire took place, and the United Nations is literally on the ground there. But we see what's happening there. The conflict has arisen, and so that ceasefire and that peace is definitely not taking hold. I guess the one question I want to ask, and I want to ask you is a very specific question about arms, is that, when we talk about the people, it's all about the clock. I mean, I know the United Nations has been working, the United States, the 5+5 has been working. But in your opinion, do you think that it's that the international community, that the clock is ticking against this continued ceasefire? Do you think that the international community should act more quickly in trying to resolve the issues there in the country?
Yes, time is not on our side. I think Libya specifically. Once you have a political impasse and conflict, that conflict will, and there is no smooth political process. That's what we're trying to achieve right now, trying to facilitate. This will turn into an escalated conflict domestically that can turn into violence very quickly. We've seen that a number of times in Libya. When there is a political impasse that's not dealt with appropriately quickly, that will turn into an armed conflict within the groups of people or within the country itself. Now we do have international presence that makes also the situation more volatile and more dangerous.
Well, let's talk specifically, go back to the thing you talk about the arms. I mean, one thing, as you know, this TV show is based out of Nigeria. It's shown throughout sub-Saharan Africa and the world. And talking to some individuals about you being on my show, one question was asked is that, apparently there are a lot of small arms that are coming from Libya into Nigeria. And Nigeria, as you know, is a country which is kind of on the precipice of change itself. What do you make of the weapons being sent from Libya? And as let's live in a world for a second that you become president or prime minister, which either one would be very powerful in the country. What would you do, and what do you think the solution is to trying to end those arms?
Well, I mean, Libya was full of arms, and we continue to import many more arms and heavy weaponries and arms of all kinds illegally against the UN embargo of sending arms to Libya. So we'll continue to pile arms by the different militias in Libya for different reasons. But since 2011, Libyan arms have reached more than 34 countries around the world. So Libya somehow, not by the choice of its own people, by the chaos that engulfed Libya and how heavily armed Libya for the last 50 years almost, a lot of arms can come, and then a lot of arms can be smuggled or sold to terrorists, to smugglers, to international crime syndicates. So it's becoming a market, and it's not what we want our country to be. And we are very sorry to see Libyan arms continue to be seeping to other countries and in any way that can destabilize any peace in any country. So that's one of the major things we need to, why we need a unified government. That's one of the reasons that we need to control our borders. We have 6 neighbors. We are an African country. We are the gateway to Africa. and our geopolitical location is very important, and we are connecting. Historically, Libya has been connected to Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. So we wanted to be the good neighbor, not the neighbor that destabilizes its own friends and brothers.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the fact that Libya is the gateway to Africa, but many people would argue that not only is it the gateway to Africa, it's the gateway out of Africa. And that one thing that you and I actually were in the UK, and we had meetings on this, talking about the mass exodus of Africans through Libya into Europe. And so, do you see that that's a problem? Why are so many people trying to leave the continent, whether they're Nigerians or West Africans in general, through Libya? And how do we control that? How do we end that?
Well, I think people leave their countries. Nobody specific, ordinary. Nobody wants to leave their country to leave their friends, to leave their families, and go somewhere, to start a new life fresh and suffer so much to get there, or might not even get there. There are circumstances, and every country, every group of people who do that, they have their own reason: economic, political, social, you name it. So we need to stabilize the countries of origin. We need to have economic prosperity and economic development in the country of origin, number one. We need to help stabilize countries that having difficulty absorbing their own labor force or their own population. We need to make sure that there is democracy and stability in these countries, so that people can express their views and live an ordinary good life. Uh, Humans by nature, they aspire to become collaborative, free, and enjoy the fruits of their work. So if for any reason they couldn't find that, or they feel oppressed, they tend to find, and sometimes economic opportunities as well, to push people to find where they can find better opportunities. So we have to work on the with the countries of origin. At the same time, human trafficking is a crime, and there are criminal syndicates internationally, and there are some in Libya as well who are benefiting, making good money, making a lot of money, unfortunately, from crimes of smuggling people and as at the same time promising them the unattainable or the impossible, or promising them things that they cannot deliver. And as we see, a lot of our brothers, sisters, people from Africa, they suffer while they cross the Mediterranean, and a lot of them they die while trying to cross. Libya is a country that can support that can help mitigate this problem, but we need our neighbors in the across the pond of the Mediterranean to help. Uh, you know, Africa suffered, and it has suffered for a long time. It's a responsibility of the international community, and especially Europe and the United States, to support stabilizing and helping Africa prosper economically. And I think this is a duty. Turning Africa to another unstable countries, more dictators, more coups, I think doesn't help. Everybody knows that. So we're looking forward to have our neighboring countries living in peace and prosperity, and then we can together fight this illegal smuggling of human trafficking, and find the better ways to provide humane and decent standard of living for everybody. I'm
That's an
sorry for
excellent
this long
answer.
answer.
No,
Uh,
it's an excellent answer. It's great because, the root cause, we look around the world. I mean, whether it's terrorism in the Middle East or whether it's in Africa or whether even the United States where you see mass migration between states, it's economic. The bottom line is economic when it gets down to it. If you have a poor economy, people by default, they want to feed their families, they want to put a roof over their head, and they're going to go where they have to in order for that to happen. Um, and then Africa, sadly, listen, I'll be the one the first to say is that, America, our foreign policy when it comes to Africa as a whole, it's adrift in some ways. It is. I mean, I'm sure I'll get beat up over saying that, but that's just the reality. And if you look at the fact there have been five coups on the continent, in the last year, and you look at the instability, whether it's in Tunisia with the uncertainty there with the president, and some people would say the lack of democracy in Tunisia. I mean, the continent is a mess. But Libya, once again, is one of the largest and most important countries within the continent, which is why stability there could and would be the domino that would save things there. If you could give any last words to the international community about trying to help Libya, what would you say?
I think we have to pay attention to Africa. I think, as you said, the international community, especially the United States, has been sporadic about their attention to Africa. Excuse me. I think we need to have consistency, and we have to have a positive attitude toward Africa. I'm sure the United States itself is going through a lot of transitions of its own, as technology, as democracy is a messy business in itself. So, and in this case, I just point to Tunisia. Tunisia is our neighbor, and I think we wish her and wish the people of the leadership of Tunisia and the people of Tunisia the best. Tunisia is very dependent economically on Libya. Stability of Libya will affect the stability of Tunisia. Libya is by geography, is very central. So that should also be one of the determinant of the encouraging factors that Libya has to be stable for Africa, sub-Saharan Africa to be stable. During Gaddafi time, Libya has built so much goodwill among the African country and the African people, and we wish to reconnect through that and build on those good things that we have had before. Libya can be, a powerful partner to the international community and to the United States when it comes to supporting Africa and helping the stability in the region and in the Middle East and North Africa as well.
Well, let me ask you this question. Do you think that the election outcome in the United States, to put you on, will make a difference? Do you think whoever wins will make a difference, or do you think that it's really more up to the Libyans to figure out their future?
Well, it's more to the Libyans to determine their future. I think some Libyans also try to pinpoint everything on the international community. I think Libyans have to lead and show the international community where and how it can support, not the other way around. International communities have so many other problems. We have 200 countries around the world, and we have so many problems. But every country leadership starts from within, and using the international community to try to find a silly excuse of not being able to move forward. I think it doesn't help. It's counterproductive. Libyan have to step in and provide leadership. That leadership will be shown as a good partner for the international community, and that will encourage the international community to build on that and to invest in the country that has good leadership.
Excellent. Well, listen, I'm sure we could talk for a much longer time, but sadly we've run out of time. But I will say that I agree 100%. Every country, it is up to them to rise up initially, and for the rest of the world to come to support, but not to solve the problems. And I really do believe, and I say this with all sincerity, I believe that you are the Libyan solution, and I hope that you get the opportunity to do that.